All right. On that note, we'll get started. Welcome to the, wow, I think it's mine. Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting for May 23rd. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a period of silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meetings of the month immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. If you need an agenda, we have some in the back of the room, or you can go to lincoln.ne.gov and click on the city council meeting. If you need a parking pass, Teresa has some up at the front for you. Let's call the first item.
All right, our first item of business is to elect a new council chair.
Okay, we'll open the floor for nomination. Roy.
I nominate Leary and Gaylor Baird as chair of the city council.
Second.
Seconded by Jane. Discussion. All right, call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
The gavel is yours.
So our next item of business then will be to elect a vice chair.
Okay, do we have any nominees for vice chair?
I move Roy Christensen as vice chair.
Second. Any further nominations? Okay, seeing none, Teresa, would you please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge? Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, congratulations, you've changed your seat, great. Teresa, will you please call the first item?
Yes, our first item would be our public hearing consent agenda. We do ask those giving testimony to please clearly state your name and address and to sign in on the sign-in sheet laying on the podium. Again, our first item is our public hearing consent agenda, items 1 through 16.
Good evening. Judy Halstead, Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department, and with me is Dr. Katie Garcia. Just a little bit of information for you, and just as a reminder, on our Board of Health appointments, state statute does provide the guidance to us specific to Lincoln's. We have Chapter 71, Section 1634. Sorry, gang, I'm not sure who's doing that, but I'll try to step back. And it specifically states that if there is a local physician or dentist association, that when those appointments come before you, state statute requires that you consider up to 3 names that may be provided by that association. Dr. Garcia is filling an expired term as our dentist representative on the board. We did seek representation from the Lincoln District Dental Association, and as an email attachment to your information, you received a letter from Dr. Addison Colleen. Dr. Garcia is the only representative that they brought forward for your consideration because they felt that she would do such an excellent job for us. Just a reminder that the first record we have of a city council creating a board of health was in 1873, so you guys have been doing this for 143 years. And with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Katie Garcia, and she can tell you a little bit about herself and answer any questions you have.
Hi, good evening. My name is Katie Garcia. I'm a dentist here in town. I work at Lincoln Pediatric Dentistry. I'm from Lincoln originally, and I went to undergrad here at UNL. I then went to dental school on East Campus through the Med Center. Then I spent a year at a community hospital in New York City doing a hospital dental certificate, and then I did 2 years in Chicago doing my pediatric training at Northwestern Children's Hospital. I then came back here and joined the group. We have 2 locations in Lincoln. We do see a variety of patients. We have a fairly high, I'd say, comparatively in town, percentage of Medicaid patients that we see. So I feel pretty passionate about seeing underprivileged kids. I also help a couple times a year at Clinic with Heart, which is, you're probably all familiar, where we see patients or triage patients for free. So I'm honored and hope that I can be a part of the board and serve them well.
Any questions?
Yeah, what we can do to stop that is just don't get too close to the mic.
We shut our mics off.
And- Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. So, and this question may be for you, may be for the health department. So, what options does a family have for dental care for their children or for themselves in the community, in addition to a private practice? What other places can they go?
Sure. Obviously, I can pretty confidently speak for kids. I can't so confidently speak for adults. If kids are living in Lancaster County, they can go to Lancaster County Health Department. They do have a pediatric dentist that come there. They can also go to People's Health Center. They do a really good job there. They can go to Clinic with a Heart. We do see some kids there and get triaged, and then that's kind of a way for us to find. I'd say the third option is the dental college. And then what the dental college also does is about once a quarter, they have a free dental clinic night. So I'd say those are the 3 options other than private practice that I'm aware of. Are you aware of any others?
And speaking specifically for adults, the same options would be available. In addition, the health department has a grant through Community Health Endowment that's working with private dentists in the community to take what would be the Medicaid rate. And I think that Roy was familiar with this grant when we brought it forward for your approval, that what it would do is provide the private dentist the Medicaid rate for the service they provide for that adult, but they don't have to bill HHS for that payment. We use grant funds to pay them what would be HHS's Medicaid rate. While not outstanding, it's still something for those adults who would be uninsured, and it saves the practitioner the work of billing Medicaid, shall we say.
Any further questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for your service. It
Thank
sounds
you.
like you already have a lot of service in the community, and to take on this added role is a real benefit to us all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? All right, Teresa, please call the next item.
All right, if not, we can vote on these items. Items 1 through 5 were introduced by Lamb.
Second.
Been waiting a long time to do that, haven't you? Yeah.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Then items 8 through 13 were introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Raybold, second by Christensen.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are our liquor applications. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward, raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. Applicants or witnesses are not required to stay for the voting session. Item 17 is the manager application of Curdy Trevetti for Holiday Inn Express and Suites Lincoln Airport at 1101 West Commerce Way. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm Darrell Stock, attorney at law, 5533 South 27th Street, Suite 203, 68512, appearing on behalf of LNK Lodging and Mr. Trevetti. As noted in the reports, Mr. Trevetti is already corporate manager for 2 other Holiday Inns here in Lincoln, and we'll be coming back because we're building a Fairfield Inn next door to this facility out at the airport, and I anticipate he'll be the corporate manager for that facility also. So I'll take any questions.
Any questions? All right. Thank you. If there's anyone else wishing to testify on this item, please come forward at this time. All right. Teresa, I don't see anyone. If you want to go
Thank
ahead
you.
and move on to the next item.
All right, I'll call items 18 and 19 together. They're the application of First Avenue Lounge for a Class I liquor license at 2310 North First Street, Suite 7, 8, and 9, and the related manager application of Ronald Bryant. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you. Just
My-
state-
My name's Ronald Bryant. The business address is 2310 North First Street, Suite 7, 8, and 9. And what other information do I need to give, or are there
Would you like to
questions
just
I
tell us
need-
a little bit about your application?
Okay. We'd like to operate as a food and beverage. There's a social hall also. And operate under the name First Avenue Lounge.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, well, thank you for coming down today.
Thank you.
Would anyone else wish to speak to this item? All right, Teresa, please call the next item.
All right, I'll call items 20 and 21 together. They're the application of Chase Suite Hotel for a Class I liquor license at 200 South 68th Street Place, as well as the related manager application of Joshua Erickson. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Erickson, General Manager of Chase Suite Hotel. It's 200 South 68th Place in Lincoln, Nebraska, 68510. We're reapplying for a liquor license. Our corporate office did some restructuring and just changed the name of the ownership company. All the same corporate officers and management and staff and everything, so it's just kind of a paperwork shuffle.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Would anyone else here like to speak to this item? All right, Teresa, please call the next item.
All right, next is item 22, the manager application of Aaron Worthen for Sam's West, Inc., doing business as Sam's Club 6413 at 4900 North 27th Street. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Sevenker. I am the Asset Protection Manager for Sam's Club, 4900 North 27th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68521. I am here on behalf of Aaron Worthen, the club manager. We are a large retail facility. This year we have done $83,000 worth of sales in wine, $163,000 worth of spirits, and $118,000 worth of beer. That is from February 1, which is our fiscal year, to present day. So we are just reapplying for a new club manager, simply a paperwork shuffle issue as well. So any questions?
All right, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? All right, Teresa, please call the next item.
All right, item 23 is the manager application of Hong Zheng for Savor Restaurant LLC, doing business as Ginger at 6055 Apples Way.
If the applicant is present, oh, great.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Han Zhang. It's application for the manager for Savor Restaurant DBA Ginger at 6055 Apples Way.
Welcome. Could you tell us a little bit about your application?
Yeah, and I'm the owner for the restaurant also, and the preview the general manager because she moved out to the Colorado. That's why I took over. Yeah.
Any questions? All right, well, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, please do sign. Anyone wishing to speak to this item? All right, Teresa, next item, please.
All right, I'll call item 24, This is the application of the Keg to expand its Class C liquor license by the addition to the area of a new licensed area described as a one-story building measuring approximately 27 feet by 140 feet, including an outdoor area measuring approximately 18 feet by 36 feet to the southwest, located at 104 North 20th Street.
If you're here for this item, come on down. Okay, doesn't look like we have an applicant today.
And they did not confirm they were coming either.
Okay. Can we just move on to the next item then? Do we
Sure
need
can.
to? Okay.
Next would be item 25, application of Cappy's Bar for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 60 feet by 60 feet at 5560 South 48th Street on June 12th, 2016, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Don't see Mr. Caparelli, or is there another representative Cappy's here?
He had confirmed he was coming.
Okay, well, let's move on to item 26.
Okay. Item 26 then is the application of the Lincoln Children's Zoo for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 1,500 feet by 400 feet at 1222 South 27th Street on June 3rd from 6 p.m. to midnight.
Hi, I'm John Chapo.
No oath on STLs.
No? Oh, I'll still tell the truth.
Thank you.
The Children's Zoo requests a permit so that we can have our annual garden party fundraiser on June 3rd, a wonderful evening at the zoo or for adults only. We'll serve some wonderful beer and wine and encourage them to bid high on our silent auction because it's a significant fundraiser for the zoo. The zoo's got a wonderful 8-foot perimeter fence all the way around it, so we're one of the securest places in town, and the adults will still behave themselves. I can promise you that. It's from 6 p.m. till midnight.
Any questions for Mr. Chapo? All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hope you can attend.
Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Okay. Next item, last item.
All right, next is item 27, application of Zipline Brewing for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 70 feet by 72 feet at 2100 Magnum Circle, Suite 1, on June 3rd from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and June 11th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Hello, I'm Craig Grier. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events at Zipline Brewing Company. We're here to request an SDL for just a couple events we're doing in June. One is the annual Kegs for the Cure, which is a homebrew fundraiser that we do, well, that we actually don't do, but we work with to provide the space to raise money for the American Cancer Society. It's on June 3rd. And then we're hosting the Love Locals Market, which is a marketplace on the 11th for locally crafted goods. So be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to these items?
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I would move approval of items 17 through 23 and 26 through 27.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Carl. Please will you call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb? Yes. Motion carried 7-0.
And Madam Chair, I'd move we hold over items 24 and 25 till next week, till June 6th meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Roy. Teresa, please call the roll.
Raybold? Yes. Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb? Yes. Motion carried 7-0. Next then, our public hearing resolutions. Item 28 is miscellaneous 16002, application of Ironwood Properties to install a light pole in a building line district per section 27.72.170 for parking lot lighting on property generally located at 4822 Pioneers Boulevard.
Okay. Does anyone wish to come and speak in favor of this item? Do we have an applicant?
Steve Hendrickson with the Planning Department. I could try to answer any questions. This was a item for one light pole that they wish to have, which inside what is called the building line district. It's an area identified just in case at some point the city may want to widen a street, in this case the street being Pioneers. They have agreed that if they install a light pole at this location, and in the future the city did acquire the right-of-way, they would move the light pole at their cost. And with that, the city had no objections to the application.
Questions for Steve? Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to testify on this item? All right. I think we can move on to the next item, Teresa.
Item 29 then is text amendment 15008, amending chapter 3.100 of the City of Lincoln Design Standards for Outdoor Lighting by amending section 3 to revise the definition of cutoff and full cutoff, amending section 4.1 to add a new subsection C to provide the maximum average maintained illuminance for outdoor areas under lighted marquees, and amending subsection 9.A to add a new subsection 2 to provide acceptable glare measurements for zero setback properties, and repealing sections 3, 4.1, and 9.A as hitherto existing.
Steve Hendrickson with the Planning Department. We will just try to very briefly go over this application, but as it involves a couple of different technical aspects, I'm also joined by Tom Chayka with the Planning Department and also Ken Fairchild with Olson Associates. I'll just very briefly give you the background on why we prepared this text amendment. Tom will then go into very briefly just what the few details are on it. And Ken will also be here to, as our consultant on this, but also to testify to the fact that if there's any other questions you have. Very briefly, this is trying to update a couple of sections in the lighting design standards, specifically the outdoor lighting design standards as they apply to lighting on buildings or to parking lots. Over time, our design standards, there were a few things they didn't address very well. Most particularly, they didn't address LED lighting. We didn't have any kind of standard for LED lighting because it is measured very differently than you might get from high-pressure sodium lighting. So in 2014, we hired Olson Associates to assist us in coming up with something that would be very comparable to our current standards, because that was really the goal of this, was to find something that was equivalent for LED so that we could allow LED lighting. Building and Safety had actually already been using their own standard that they tried to find something that was equivalent, and for over 3 or 4 years they had been allowing LED lighting and parking lot lighting. And had been using the 313 bug standard, and we can try to explain a little bit what the BUG standard means. But they had been using that, but thought it was important that we finally get it in our design standards so that it was not a building and safety interpretation of what was equivalent, that it was actually something adopted by the City Council. So in 2014, we hired Olson Associates. We worked with them on a study to make sure something was equivalent. We then sent that study that was done by Olson's and our prepared text amendment to several lighting design professionals. They reviewed it, generally thought that it was acceptable. We then forwarded the actual text amendment to the Planning Commission last June of 2015. At that Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission recommended approval 6-1. But there was one design professionals who had not been involved in the initial review who asked us to hold it over because they had some concerns and questions. We met with them, and then we also agreed that there was a project coming up at 23rd and O where we would test something a little bit higher than the lighting standard that we had been using. So we approved their building permit. We thought it might be up and built by the fall of last year. It wasn't. The lighting poles and things really weren't operational till about March of this year. Staff from the departments plus Ken Fairchild went out to the site, and we really thought that what had been installed was actually a little bit higher and more brighter in intensity and glare than had what been allowed previously. So we went back to our original recommendation, which was a 313 bug lighting standard. And so that, and we're now ready. We let the design professionals know that we're moving back forward with this text amendment to the City Council so that they had a chance, and at this point we haven't heard any comments from them. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Tom to very briefly describe that plus the other couple of items that are in the text amendment.
Tom Jacob, planning staff. The proposed text is amending 3 sections in chapter 3.100 of the design standards. The first one Steve alluded to is putting in a new classification called BUG. BUG stands for backlight, uplight, and glare. And each part of it has a numerical number associated to it, which I don't understand all the lighting part of it. That's what Ken's here for. But we're proposing a bug rating of 313, which would be equivalent or close to what we now have in the standards as called cutoff. And 303 would be equivalent to what we have now as full cutoff. The bug rating is not replacing cutoff and full cutoff. We'll have both classification systems in the design standards. But we need the bug rating in there because that's how LED lights are classified through a bug rating system. The second change that we didn't kind of have in our standards that became an issue later was we needed a lighting standard for lights that are under marquees, awnings that overhang sidewalks. The working group came out with a average maintained illuminance of 4 foot candles was determined as appropriate. And the last change to the text, when we first did these text amendment about 6-7 years ago, one thing we didn't think about was how light trespass affected buildings when they had no setbacks. We kind of found this became an issue with several buildings in the West Haymarket where they were putting lights on the sides of their buildings. Well, if you're building the building right up to your lot line and your light trespass is measured on the lot line, most likely you're not going to meet it. It's going to exceed the light trespass. So we added a new we amended that section to say if you were on a 0 lot line and you're next to a street or open space, the measurement would be taken 10 feet off the lot line, like 10 feet into the street for a light trespass. And the light trespass is the same as it is in any other situation. It's 2 foot candles. But the big difference is where the measurement takes place. As Steve said, we sent these proposed changes to 5 other lighting professionals. There was no objections from any of them to the proposed text. Maybe Ken could, if you want some more clarification on bug rating, Ken can help us out with that.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Fairchild. I am with Olson Associates. Our business address is 601 P Street, 68508, I believe. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say that this group worked pretty hard trying to make sure they were doing something that was fair and equitable and in keeping with the original intent of the design, lighting design guidelines. Did a lot of work, and as you know, it's spanned over 2 years now, and I can say as a professional who has done a lot of lighting design and helped them with both the original study and this study that I am in support of the findings and the final text amendments being proposed for you. So with that being said, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them or try to answer them.
Jay?
Thank you for all the hard work that you went in on developing these standards. I guess I have the one concern I have. Did you reach out to property owners or developers of retail to get their input or take on these new design standards with some of the changes that you're putting in?
Not specifically to developers. The lighting engineers we sent it to, lighting designers, work with a lot of developers. So I guess we were thinking of, since they already work with the private sector, we felt that sending it to them would meet that criteria. I think if they felt there was concerns from their clients, I think they would have said something.
Did any of them raise any concerns about the 2-foot candles under the marquees? Or the 4-foot candles, sorry.
4 foot.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Did any of your clients, didn't have the microphone on. Did any of your clients raise any concerns about the low foot candles of 4-foot candles versus the 20-foot candles that you can have under a fuel center canopy, for example?
We actually started out with a couple of existing marquees that had been done and been approved and gotten through the process, and that kind of set a standard for us. And then we went back and created in our lighting design software some marquee instances, and then played with different levels, and it just worked out that the 4-foot candles seemed to be very effective for what they were trying to achieve under there, where it was leading into a building entrance, and so and of course the lighting under a C-store canopy. There's a lot more activity going on there in terms of credit cards and other things being put in the pumps, and you're filling in a car with gas anyway. So there's a lot more visual activity going on than usually under a marquee downtown, where people are mingling or associating or going into or out of the building. So at anyway, that's part of the process that we went through, trying to evaluate what was fair and at the intent of the original task force that we worked with.
Did you take some actual meter light readings under existing retail marquees and canopies?
Yes, we did.
And were they right around 4-foot candles or 6-foot candles, or what did they come in typically?
I went over to the theaters and did that, and quite frankly, the right under the theater leading into downtown, it's higher than that, but that was before the standards were set. The other place that we went to is over on the corner of 10th and O Street. The old terminal building was one of the examples that they applied for and went through the process and got. And they actually have 4-foot candles there, and we went over and did some spot measurements in there with our light meter readings, yes. So.
Bless you. I guess my only concern is working with other property managers and builders and developers of retail. The concern is that the space needs to be inviting and people need to feel safe. They need to feel that they are visible. And in some areas of our city, and I can think of one of our grocery stores in particular, we try our hardest to make sure that there is enough illumination so that people who come into that space feel comfortable, feel safe. And so I always worry with some of the limitations or reduction of the foot candles from the great visibility that you have, say, under a fuel center, that it really is a detraction towards some of the safety features that retailers try so hard to establish to make their space inviting and safe. So I have some reservations about this, and I know some of the concerns that were raised, and I think you said you reached out to the community, but I would like you to probably reach out to property managers and restaurant associations and see if they have any concerns about this limitation of 4-foot candles under a marquee. I think, and asking law enforcement too about some of their concerns if they feel that this is an adequate illumination. I think 4-foot candles is not very substantial, in my humble opinion.
I guess I would just add that we're not reducing anything. This is actually something new that's being added to the design standards. Wasn't in there before, and so when some of these buildings had lighted marquees, the problem was the light trespass was one of the issues, and we didn't have a standard. They'd have to ask for a waiver to it. Part of some of these revisions for light trespass is so people don't have to ask for waivers, or we reduce the number of waivers people are asking for. There still is the waiver process if somebody wanted to go a little bit higher. Also, most of these marquees I think we looked at are out in the public right-of-way, a lot of them. So you have additional lighting from street lights, and plus buildings still can have like wall sconces, lights on the walls. So, you know, there is additional lighting to brighten up the area around the building.
Well, just to follow up, it looks like you have added a further restriction on light trespass and glare when there is no adjacent property, or it's adjacent to a public street or private road that there is no future development designated for that. Why is that important to set that standard of allowing only 2-foot candles to spill over?
Number 2,
Yeah,
in that section, under section 9, number 2, that's a new addition.
Mhm.
Before, we just had one, which just said, which has been approved for, you know, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago that was approved. That said no more than 2-foot candles is measured at the property line. We're adding number 2 so that when you have a building on a 0 setback, that you're not being measured at the property line. You're being measured 10 feet off the property line. It's the same foot candles as always been in the design standards. The foot candles is not anything new. What's new is where that measurement is being taken from, and it's actually
You're
a
saying it's
benefit for the
So you're saying it's
property owner.
past that, 10 feet past their
Lot
property?
line
Oh,
is where the measurement will be taken.
well, that makes sense then, because I don't see why you would be upset about someone having a spillover of light of not much consequence over their property line. So thank you for clarifying that. It's my mistake. I didn't get it, that one.
John?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate all of this, and what my colleague was saying, I think there is something when you get to retail, and I'm also thinking ahead with some of the changes in lighting, light bulbs. You know, we're getting more and more to LED, where you can get a brighter output at a lot less energy usage. And as Ms. Raybold said, you know, from a retailing and invitational standpoint, it helps to have that well-lit area to designate an entrance or whatever. You talk about on the right-of-way and get downtown Haymarket, a lot of 0 lot line structures. When you measure the foot candle, you're probably going to get some spillover from any street lighting as well, I would assume. So it's not an isolated measurement. But if what does this do if a restaurant, eating facility wants to really illuminate it more? You've limited them to that side, that upper limit of 2 to 4 foot candles here, depending on the application.
If it's a marquee.
You're speaking of the marquee.
So if there's not a marquee, there's no limit to them?
Not for this wording.
Well, you still have the light trespass. We
Yeah,
still have
yeah,
the light
light
trespass at 2-foot
trespass.
candles.
Yeah, I'm sure the developers you talked to were cognizant of some of this, but just the property owners themselves and business owners, a little bit different position. And I guess I too would be interested if they'd really thought about that.
Yes, I would just add on the waivers. The waivers I worked on for West Haymarket, mainly Haymarket area buildings, that all exceeded the light trespass at 2-foot candles at the lot line. All of them were well under 2-foot candles when you went 10 feet past the property line.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, they submit their lighting plans to us and show where they take readings, and at 10 feet out, it wasn't a problem.
Do you find over time in practice you have many violations assessed against building or property owners or businesses?
Well, I see Terry Cathy from Building and Safety just showed up. Any violations would go through Building and Safety. Usually if it's a new building, you know, they submit their lighting plan to Building and Safety, and then it gets denied if they don't meet the conditions, and then we have them go through the waiver process.
Terry Cathy, Building and Safety. We basically do that on a complaint basis. We look at the plans, and then if something goes up, obviously you have people that just hire an electrician to put up lights. Those are usually the ones that usually end up calling complaints and so forth. And a lot of that you find with LEDs because they have a white light instead of that kind of yellowish light. What I can say is reading around some of the readings that we've taken around the Haymarket and so forth, like for instance, I'm going to say Laszlo's and so forth, where they have the eating areas and stuff. Those are very low watt lights. I mean, we're talking maybe 2-foot candles max underneath their marquee. So they want to set that ambiance, I guess, the eating, like candlelight dinner, and so what you see most of the time down there is that.
Carl, did you have a question?
I did. I hate to say this, but this is very enlightening. So we've got these different classes of lighting that in the definition section of the code. So I don't know how this works. So are there different levels of lighting that are applied or are allowed in those different areas? Is that, can you explain what those classes mean?
The type of, you're talking about the class, yes. Different areas have different restrictions. You have commercial, residential, you have auto dealerships, recreational, and then of course you have the Salt Creek Beetle. You know, there's certain restrictions on that. They haven't even really come up with those restrictions. The wildlife want us to protect, the beetle, and basically right now what they're saying is don't use LED, use yellow lights. Right now, that's all they're giving us right now. But yeah, the different areas, different types of uses would have different types of lighting.
Okay. Curious that the Salt Creek Tiger Beetle environs are probably closest to the most concentrated areas of auto dealerships that we have in the community.
And those lights went up prior to the ordinance. So that's one reason why I think the task force actually, knowing the history, actually got together, is because of there was the car lots and the convenience stores for the most part.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions from council? I have just one, and it has to do with process. So in the Planning Commission report, there was some discussion about the extent to which this process was a full-blown design standard review versus a task force and a more narrow review. You've undertaken a long period of time to do this. Should there be complaints in the future? Should there be, I guess, people who feel this isn't working for them for some reason, like the folks where you did your test case at 23rd and O, what is the process for those groups to appeal or get a waiver? Is that still intact?
Yeah. There's still the waiver process, and we look at a case-by-case individual basis and deem if it's appropriate or not. The waivers are administrative. They're approved by the planning director. If it's denied by the planning director, they can appeal it to planning commission. Other than that, if it was something more major, they could request a text change to amend the design standards.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tom, is there anyone who would like to come forward and testify in favor of this item? Opposed? Okay. Any further questions of staff before we move on? All right. Teresa, can you call the next item, please?
All right, next is approving Michael Despain as Fire Chief effective July 18th, 2016.
Good evening, I'm Tom Cassidy, the Director of Public Safety, and I'd like to introduce Michael Despain, who's been selected by Mayor Beitler to serve as our next fire chief. And Michael's here with his wife Erica and his daughter Rachel. They're from Clovis, California, where Mike serves as the fire chief. He has a distinguished career in the fire service for 31 years, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about himself.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, my wife and my daughter are here. I also have, my daughter has a twin son named Jared, who's also, he could not be here, but he's in the military, in the Navy, serving on the USS Abraham Lincoln, which I think is kind of appropriate in this case. And so he wasn't able to make it, but we we thank you very much for the opportunity to come here. There's a lot of people to thank in helping us get to this far, including Director Cassidy and the firefighters from Lincoln Fire and Rescue, and many of you that sat on testing panels and so forth. And so we're excited about the opportunity to come here. Lincoln has a lot to offer, not just professionally, but family. And so this is quite the adventure for us. We're on a tight timeline to find our house and figure out where we're going to move to. But my wife is on that very diligently, and so hopefully we'll get that taken care of in the next day or two. And my daughter will be going to school here, entering as a junior, and so we're excited about that because the sooner she graduates and gets a real job, then that'll be better for me. So with that, any questions?
Questions? Sydney?
Welcome back. Nice to see you again. Came all the way from California again, so I'm very, very impressed. And I just want to know if you packed enough red.
Well, the first game, I think, is with Fresno State, so I'll have to wear a very generic red the first one, and then after that, it'll be the
We have plenty of red things for sale.
We do.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, thanks for being here and for your interest in serving our community. Could you tell us just a little bit about what you've done in Clovis, where you are currently, and I think also you are in Fresno as well. So tell us a little bit about your
So the
journey.
work history may be a little complex, but for the most part, a chief officer for about the last 15 years. And I was fortunate that I spent some time with the Fresno Fire Department working for a very well-known fire chief, and I went there on purpose to mentor with that chief because I wanted to learn from them, not just do the job, but excel at it, if you will. So I was fortunate that I had a good mentor that opened up the door to many mentors, and so a lot of the problem solving I've been able to do over the years were really, I get a little credit for it as the chief, but really it's many mentors, it's building the teamwork to help get many successes, and sometimes you get a little success and then more people jump on the bandwagon and you pick up momentum, things move forward. With Clovis, the thing that's fortunate is we really have a strong support for public safety within the community, and so what we try and do is make sure we don't take advantage of that, that we're good stewards of the resources that we're given, and so we do a lot of our measurements in what we do for outcomes, not just data. I mean, data is important, but it's really what is the outcome to the customer, what do they want at the end of the day, and making sure we align what they really want with what we provide, not just what we think they want. And so that's really part of the success that we've had, is aligning that so the community understands what we do and what we can't do, but they sign off on, they understand limitations, they very clear in articulating what they want. And so we do an annual report every year that kind of gives an executive summary of maybe the 5 or 10 high points that we want to present to council, elected officials, the community. A lot of people don't want to see what happens behind the curtain, but on the back end, we're measuring thousands of data points and measuring outcomes for the patient and dealing with providers that aren't necessarily, sometimes it's hard for us to get the data. We have to work with them to partner because we don't always have all the answers in-house. We have to partner with other agencies to do that. And so that's where our success has come, and so we're hoping to bring some of that here and keep building on the successes that Lincoln Fire and Rescue has already done.
Okay, so you said patients, so both of those departments served EMS needs as well as fire?
I know in California, maybe 70% of California has, they have kind of a mixed use. So the ambulance provider may be a private provider, and then there's some where they've kind of a mix where they're the transport agency and fire provides the paramedic assessment on the front end. Where I'm at, there is no more there's no more medics on the engines, at least in kind of a core area where I am. The peripheral areas do. But what we do is we set on the board that chooses who that provider is. We set the rates, we determine performance, and then we fine them when they don't meet performance measures and that kind of stuff. So we work with them to get that measurement back out to make sure that the customer is getting the right deal. And then what we do is we have kind of a standing availability that if they can't meet under the way the costs are set up, that we can partner with them where we will provide that. And so far they've been able to do it without it, but I would say probably within a year you may see us move back into that. It's really the next contract, the people that are competing for that contract kind of recognize the partnership as where the best service gets made.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Teresa, do you want to call the next item, or?
All right.
Oh, sorry, is there anyone who would like to testify in favor of this item? Any in opposition? All right.
All right, next is our public hearing ordinance's second reading, item 31, amending section 1 of ordinance 20312, approving Prairie Village North annexation number 16002 to correct the legal description to be consistent with the corporate limits map amendment shown on attachment A attached to ordinance 20312.
Does anyone wish to come forward in favor of this item? Anyone wishing to come forward in opposition to this item? Questions of staff? Okay, next item, Teresa.
All right, next is item 32, approving the establishment of the West O Street Maintenance Business Improvement District within the exterior boundaries of an area generally along West O Street from 3rd Street on the east to Homestead Expressway on the west, and including the property abutting the north and south sides of said West O Street right-of-way.
Rick Pavlin, City Law Department. We would request that the City Council continue this public hearing till June 6th for a continued public hearing and action on that date. I put the incorrect time on the notice of public hearing for the night's meeting, and to fully conform to state law, I think I need to re-advertise it and send new notice out to the property owners to advise them of the correct time and date.
Would that be action on that date as well? You said action, but it's a ordinance on second reading. Would we continue the second reading?
That would be your preference. I mean, I think they would have the opportunity to be here and testify. The ordinance would still be on its potentially a third reading. So I'm not opposed to doing that as well. Either have action on the 13th, that'd be fine.
Well, for those who did go ahead.
Well, I'd make a motion, we continue this to June 6th with public hearing and be third reading unless we decide differently then.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Carl. Just a point of order, do we want to see if anyone's here to testify on this item before we do that? All right, just in case people knew we were meeting at 5:30 on tonight as opposed to 3 p.m., is there anyone who would like to come forward and testify on this item? Okay, all right. Seeing none, Teresa, any discussion on the motion? Okay, Teresa, can you call the roll?
Rabel?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then, actually that concludes our public hearing. We can move right into the voting session then. All right, public hearing resolutions. Item 28 is miscellaneous 16002. Application of Ironwood Properties to install a light pole in a building line district per section 2772-170 for parking lot lighting on property at 4822 Pioneers Boulevard, introduced by Lamb.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Trent. Any discussion? All right, Teresa, please call the roll.
Rabel?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 29 is text amendment 15008, introduced by Lamb.
So moved.
Someone like to second it? Seconded by Trent. Any discussion on this item? Any further discussion on this item? Jane?
Well, I have mixed feelings about this. I know that they did their homework. I guess I would have felt better if they had reached out to more entities and different groups of people besides lighting engineers, which I truly respect, to get feedback on if this matters or if it's of a concern to any other retail property owners, property management teams. So as much as I always trust the great judgment of our planning department, I wish they would have just spread the net a little wider to get more professional input on it. So reluctantly, I'm going to vote no on it.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Teresa, please call the roll.
Raybold?
No.
Camp?
No.
Christensen?
No.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 4-3. Item 30 is approving Michael Despain as Fire Chief effective July 18th, 2016, introduced by Lamb.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Trent. Discussion? Okay, we had a couple of rounds of looking for the right person for our new fire chief. There were many people who were involved in those interviews. There were opportunities for introductions with the public, and we have someone today before us who's moving here from the West Coast with a lot of experience into a role that is a difficult one. You know, our city is growing. It has many challenges. As we move into a budget season, we are going to be wrestling with those challenges. I wish you luck. I wish you all of the fortitude and good fortune that it will take to help lead us into the next decade here. And I hope that you will work closely with staff and continue to seek the kind of public input that you've sought from others as you've made your way through Lincoln and during the interview process and in the weeks since as you've reached out to us. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Ordinances on second reading are items 31 and 32. Ordinances third reading, item 33. Approving the establishment of the Downtown Core Management Business Improvement District, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Roy, seconded by Trent. Please call, any discussion on these items? We've had a lot of discussion on these items over the month, so please call the roll, Teresa.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 34 is approving the establishment of the Downtown Management Business Improvement District, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Roy, seconded by Jane. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 35 is approving the disestablishment of the West Haymarket Downtown Core Management Business Improvement District, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Roy, seconded by Jane. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 36 is approving the disestablishment of the West Haymarket Downtown Management Business Improvement District, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Roy, seconded by Carl. Discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Resolutions on first reading are items 37 through 39. Ordinances on first reading are items 40 through 46. Our pending list date certain are items 47 and 48. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time, since it is open mic.
I invite you to a paradise on earth. There are some corrections. Get the elderly out of the nursing homes because lethal pills have been used. 20 to 50% of elderly in nursing homes passed away of bed sores. The cure is honey. Honey seals the air from bacteria and is a super nutrient. Honey with peppery aftertaste is tainted, so use agave from a Mexican store. Grape jelly on the head is a cure for a stroke. Plus, eating grape jelly on onset and only grape jelly for a week if already having a stroke. Magnesium oil on the chest cures cardiac arrest and also stroke. Smelling musk oil cures cardiac arrest too. Cinnamon detangles taut tangles that Alzheimer patients get. Close the Alzheimer units. Turmeric cures tumors, both benign and cancerous. No need to fund cancer research anymore. Heat cures cancer too, so do both. Elderly live 10 years longer with an electric blanket. The most cardiovascular incidents are in February when it's got the least sunshine and the most cold weather. Electric blanket cures insomnia that the elderly get. Have clove, turmeric, cinnamon, and sweetener shaker. Cinnamon is also for diabetes and memory, and turmeric is also for arthritis and is an antibacteria, and clove is for cardiovascular care. Hawthorn berries replace risky Coumadin. Americans can't trust pills anymore, so lick dirt or clay for any disease, drug, or tainting. Muscle test with an item in one hand, press down with the other hand with the first two fingers. If the arm doesn't go down, the body wants and needs the item. If the arm goes down, it isn't beneficial to you or isn't beneficial to anyone. This is part of kinesiology. We don't need doctors to prescribe or diagnose an illness anymore, thanks to muscle testing. An aluminum-looking trinket is a neutron device. Don't press down on the lever or flesh tears away from the bone to affect 4 blocks of fatalities. Slowly dip into a pail of water or a sink full of water. We have healings here for mental distress. ADD and ADHD have holy water head soak. Holosync CDs, transcendental meditation, alpha stim, hypnotherapy, lotus tea, yogurt each meal for allergies, lay in calcium powder, lick a little clay, and some of the parents may have to quit drugs. For any adverse touch, have garlic wreath on the head. For gay act, add an inflatable adult-sized doll of the other gender. Holy water on the head and the tush. Rosemary wreath for the woman who wants to get over lesbian behavior. And wild yam tea for the homo wanting to go straight. For agitation, answers for allergies, massage, alpha stim, transcendental meditation, violet tea, garlic on the body. Give magnesium oil for the skin and food oil by mouth. Have anger management, no cortisol, steroids, alcohol, or drugs. For Alzheimer's, we said before, cinnamon toast every morning, Blue Dawn dust simulator, turmeric cinnamon shaker anytime, infrared helmet, and infrared health mat. For autism, have clay and juice, mega calcium, and yogurt daily. Lay in calcium powder, put calcium powder in the hair. For blaspheming, have Reiki healing, Charisma healing, holy water, divine affirmations, hypnotherapy, rosary around the neck, and garlic on the body. Stay in church. State miracles for 5 minutes. We have more than that. We're just starting to give out this information. Thank you very much. We're a rosary, for Christ is giving us these dramatic healings. Thank you.
Mike Morosen, just want to wish you guys a good Memorial Day, and we will be having a number of things going on at Wyuka, out at Lincoln Memorial, and out in the Veterans Park. Post 3 will be participating. We'll have the Black Powder Boys out there. VFW will be out there. So if you're out there, there's 3 different occasions that you can come out and thank the vets, for their service, which they really appreciate, and take a look at what's been done at Veterans Gardens. That's been changed around a little bit. And then out there at Wyuka, you can see out there. So we just wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move adjournment.
Second. Moved by Roy, second by Jane.
We ought to advise the public, we will not be here next Monday, but as Mr. Morosen said, we want everyone to be thankful and celebrate Memorial Day, and we will be back on June 6th.
All right, Teresa, please call the roll on adjournment.
Raybold?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Fellers?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.